but I can't. I'll just quickly make sure nobody's running torrents or anything like that, just in case. So we can try to avoid any potential lag issues.
God, why can't I instantaneously send data across the world at other people? Curse you, internet!
Curse you, telecommunications companies. Trying to put limitations on me. Oh, what is this? My sister.
Oh, what's going on?
Running downloads. Eating a grand total of 138.5 kilobytes per second of my small amount of bandwidth. Oh, I can't believe it. Alright, so the lag should subside a little bit now, since my internet service provider is wonderful and likes to throttle any file traffic like that and completely annihilate your internet connection while you run any torrents or anything like that. So now, should be a little bit better. It is, of course, peak hours where I am, and I'm on a cable connection, so everybody gets online after they have their dinner and ruins it for everybody. But I think I'm going to hit this record button, and then we'll play a super cool commercial, and we'll go into game 2 with some NaDa guy. Some NaDa. NaDa. All right, welcome back, everybody, to Game 2 of mYm.Sase versus oGs.NaDa. Game 2 is going to be going on here on Metalopolis. Last time around, we saw them go head-to-head on XelNaga Caverns, and Sase was really able to completely shut down NaDa's one racks expansion strategy, just with a really nice and well-executed 3 warp gate contain. And NaDa's really going to have to keep that in mind going into the second game. He's going to have to go for a little bit more of a safer build overall, and just keep in mind of what his opponent's options are in this matchup. What do you think we're going to see on Metalopolis here with these two players, keeping in mind that this is a Terran versus Protoss?
Really, I think it's going to be very, very spawn dependent. Since we are playing, of course, on that old version of Metalopolis where you can spawn at close positions, if they do happen to be in close positions, that's going to really affect what's going to be happening in this game. You could see some really early barracks pressure from NaDa. Often Terran players would go for like a 2 racks pressure and just put some hurt on the Protoss before they're able to get sentries out and force fields, etc. But of course, if there are cross positions, we could see some extreme macro play and some great multitasking from NaDa, hopefully. And then, of course, close air positions. I mean, you never know what's going to happen there. Might see some drops going on. Might see completely standard play. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, so I got this game loaded up, so why don't we get it fired up. So let's get started in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, dropping in here at the 9 o'clock base is oGs.NaDa as our blue Terran. At our 6 o'clock base, we have mYm.Sase as our red Protoss. So we are going to be at close air positions, and as we've said before, of course, that makes that the central southern XelNaga tower extremely important in this matchup and in map control. It not only affects how you move, of course, on the ground to your opponent's base, but also any kind of drops, airplay. XelNaga towers still do a pretty good job of scouting. For example, if NaDa were to go for a drop on Sase's natural instead of his main, you try to fly it around the map, and you can spot that kind of stuff with XelNaga towers, so it's going to make a pretty big difference. As for strategy, it's really anyone's game here.
Yeah, NaDa definitely known for his macro-oriented play. We saw last game he did go for a strategy that does play to his strengths. He wanted to get a really quick natural expansion up and running, but Sasha's completely shut it down with a pretty normal Protoss strategy, just getting those 3 warp gates up and running. So he can throw down an expansion of his own, and he just took advantage of the fact that NaDa was being very defensive and parked outside of his base with some force fields, and that threat of having your army cut in half by force fields is just such a huge risk for a Terran player to actually move out and try to engage in, that it doesn't really have much of a choice but to sit there and tech up until he has medevacs or he sees his opponent move away. And by that time, you could be 10, 12, 13 minutes into the game. Your opponent's already got Colossus on the field, has a second base well up and running, and a third base on the way. All sorts of bad things can happen when you get contained like that. And NaDa is definitely going to have to change up his style a little bit this time around. We are in a little bit of a different position here with the close air positions, and that's going to change things up a little bit. The center StarsWar tower here between these two bases is going to be pretty crucial to control, as you will be able to see any ground movement coming down between either of these two players. You can kind of gain a decent amount of information just by when you're holding the tower, when your opponent tries to knock you off of it, and then when you knock him off of that, and so on and so forth. There's kind of some mind games that can be going on behind the scenes with the StarsWar tower, especially at this level of play.
Yeah, so we see a fast tech lab get dropped down by NaDa. He did go for that gas, not trying to do any type of gasless expand again. Does not want to make the same mistake that he made last game. And we do have a Marauder coming out with concussive shells right away. So, I mean, this could be used defensively, but we could see some type of early aggression from NaDa. However, we still don't have a second barracks out yet. So, I mean, there is a build that was pretty popular a little while ago that was basically just do one racks expansion, but with Marauders, and you just kind of attack with your Marauders while you're expanding. And it's right as Protoss only has like 1 or 2 Stalkers. And you can just put a bit of pressure on while you take your own expansion. It looks like NaDa is saving up. He's about to drop that command stone on the upper ground there. And it looks like that is going to be what he's going to plan to do here, although he might not put on that pressure. He is just kind of leaving those the Marauder and Marine at home, just playing defensively right now. There we go. Now he does have the second Marauder. He's going to decide to move out. Try to just put on a little bit of pressure. As you can see, Sase only has one more Stalker in production, so by the time they get there, he might have 2 Stalkers, might only have 1. Either way, 2 Stalkers versus 2 Marauders and a Marine. Not going to go so well for the Protoss. So just a little bit of nice pressure that's going to put Sase into a bad position where he might have to use probes to defend ever so slightly.
Look at this. Proxy Twilight Council
and of course,
down here. I think we might see a Proxy Dark Shrine. And maybe some special tactics coming out of Sase. He's going to pull some probes off the line right now to try and hold off this rush. Does not want to let Sase get up into his, or NaDa get up into his base. He's like, wait a minute. And Reaper's actually snuck into his
Reaper in
base.
The back.
Very nice job. He's only going to get 2 kills there.
Oh, man.
Pops off another shot, but does get picked off there. NaDa is going to start pulling back home right now, but the Warp Prism's on the way. Dark Shrine just getting started. And again, it's going to take about a year to finish. As we see it at 20 out of 100 seconds. Still got quite a ways to go. Meanwhile, expansion for NaDa is just about to complete. Doesn't have this morph into an orbital command quite yet, but I don't think he's really expecting Dark Templar at this point. We do see he's getting an engineering bay right now, so his turret placement is going to be a pretty important thing for us to look out for, as well as how much energy he saves up, or at least has to work with. The Warp Prism's got 4 Stalkers in it, and the Dark Shrine's still not complete, so I have to wonder if he's actually going to reveal this Warp Prism immediately and start harassing with it. And looks like he will. Going to get a decent amount of SEG kills here as the remainder of NaDa's army is completely out of position. NaDa actually not going to pull his SCVs away. As soon as he sees that there's only Marauders here, 1 more Marine, he's going to pull those Stalkers away. And he realized he actually can do a little bit of damage here. Drops him once again to pick off the remainder of those forces. But as soon as he sees the remainder of NaDa's reinforcements make it in there, he will pull back. After he's done a decent amount of damage, he's not actually going to use that Warp Prism to drop DTs into
There is R1 already on the way, though.
Run it in. No turret.
Yeah,
either.
and there's no turrets, so kind of scared for NaDa right now. He does have 100 energy between his 2 orbital commands, drop down to 2 scans on this DT, and it is attacking the bunker. No, Sase, control your DT, please. Why would you kill the bunker? Oh, and DT easily gets taken out, of course. NaDa notices it, killing the bunker. All he had to do was run past, attack some SCVs. Instead, I mean, he is doing some fun tactics over here with this Warp Prism. Orbing on the high ground, but it is forced to cancel, move away. DT not going to get up there. So Sase, who had been controlling extremely well all game, I mean, that first push, or when NaDa moved out, he didn't lose a single unit, even though a lot of his probes were really low in HP. But now, that misplay on that DT just completely ruined his entire strategy, since obviously NaDa dropped down a missile turret as soon as he saw that. So, I mean, he had this really great strategy lined up in a really great position where NaDa didn't have any detection. And while he can still do some damage here with this Warp Prism, and I'm shocked NaDa doesn't have a turret in his main, he did really blow a lot of the potential of that build there.
Yeah, NaDa is actually going to send one of these Dark Templars away from the other, making sure that he has these split up, so that NaDa is forced to use a few more scans here, and he's still doing a little bit of pseudo damage here as he's forcing NaDa to spend his energy on scans rather than actually mules and getting that extra income there. Warp Prism almost getting picked off by those Marines, but the Dark Templar will be able to fight another day. Is going to stab away at that supply depot, finally able to take that out. And just going to
still no missile turret in the main.
No missile turret.
I'm just so confused, NaDa. Why don't you make a missile turret? Just please make a missile turret. Meanwhile, Sase taking the gold base as his first expansion. So really, really unorthodox play there. Almost never see players do that. It's just so risky, especially if NaDa were to go for something like a tank-based build. He can easily put on some hurt at those Zelnaga towers, really deny that gold base. So Sase taking a big risk here, but I mean the income he's going to get from it is going to be really substantial. Might do him some real good here. Meanwhile, he is getting +1 armor at the moment, chrono boosting that out. So Sase kind of all over the place, teching up in a lot of different areas. Continuing to warp in DTs with that low HP Warp Prism.
Yeah, and now there is a missile turret here, and it's got a very, very large detection range. But I think this DT just might barely... No, it will be out of this detection range, so we will force NaDa to spend a scan down there and save that refinery. We'll also get that repaired before it actually gets taken out. And this extra income from Sase is definitely going to help him out a little bit, considering that he is at this point pretty much behind after spending so much money on that tech and not really doing any damage, just forcing NaDa to spend his money on scans rather than mules, and hasn't really been able to put this robotics facility to much work other than that Warp Prism, and just continuing to pump out gateways right now as well. It's going to be going up to 7 gateways, 8 gateways I should say, with this gold expansion and that much income to work with. Definitely
That's
not
ridiculous.
A bad choice at all, but
I'm curious to see what his unit composition is going to be, because producing off 8 gates on 2 bases, even if one is a gold base, is going to be pretty difficult. He only has 39 harvesters right now, whereas NaDa has 47. What the? Did you just see that?
Where? What?
NaDa's natural. He just took his entire army and killed off his own missile turret in his mineral line at the natural. I can't think of a possible reason why that would be good. I'm assuming it was just a misclick. But anyways, NaDa, I mean, even though Sase has the gold base, the income tab shows that they're actually almost completely even right now on resources. So the fact that NaDa's had his expansion so much longer than Sase has, even though he hasn't been able to use mules like he's wanted to, pretty much means that he's still in a good position. And in fact, he's up by over 20 food right now, or exactly, a little over 20 food right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see him move out. He has tons of energy saved up, over 200 right now, just ready to be able to scan when he moves out. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him move out to try to take that third, even though there is a DT blocking it at the moment.
He will be able to scan that and take that out very quickly. And Sase knows that at this point, this is where the Terran players generally start with that drop hyper aggression. So we see him bouncing back and forth between his gold expansion and his main base. Not really 100% sure what NaDa's next move is going to be. And Sase is controlling the Zelnaga tower here with the Dark Templar. And he will see this army making its way through there. He will be able to react in time. Takes down that statue, and here comes the engagement. Sase is going to be coming out from one side here. NaDa might be able to just focus down this Nexus, but no, he will go for the engagement. Force field is going to trap a lot of these forces here, and the Zealots are going to be able to start chopping away, but the Zealots go down very quickly. There's a lot of bio here right now. Dark Templar is going to sneak in there, but NaDa is going to be able to scan and take that out. Not going to be falling for that this time around, and NaDa is doing a pretty good job with this engagement, but it looks like he will be driven back.
Yeah, I feel like he really actually made a pretty big mistake there in his micro. He just kind of sat there in bad positioning, allowed himself to get force fielded. And I feel like if he had moved back before those force fields happened, he would have been in a lot better positioning. Instead, he lost a lot of his units, and then while retreating, lost every single one of his medevacs to those stalkers. So that's a pretty big deal, losing all those medevacs at this point in the game. He does have a Ghost Academy up, but he still hasn't taken the third. Meanwhile, that DT that's right there for Sase is going to get scanned, taken out. I'm kind of disappointed. I really wish once Sase saw NaDa move out with his army that he had sent that DT into the natural, because NaDa, if you look at his natural, he actually didn't leave a single unit in his bunker. And he didn't have a single unit to defend. All he had was that one missile turret and not even one in the mineral line. So he could have completely shut down mining in NaDa's natural if he had moved that DT in. But I mean, both players, relatively even right now. It's they both kind of traded armies there. They're on pretty similar income. NaDa just a little bit ahead right now. I think it's either player's game right now. I mean, it's really going to come down to what Sase does with his tech. He's got all kinds of tech. He's got his robo. He's getting upgrades with his forge, and he already has that DT tech as well as charge. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him start moving into High Templar after he takes a third base. Which, to be honest, I'm kind of shocked that neither player is taking third base yet.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely have expected Sase to have already thrown down that Nexus. But as I say that, he does throw it down here at the natural expansion. NaDa is going to move out at the same time. He's got one Ghost here. Dark Templar is going to sneak into the middle of his army, not actually trying to focus down the Ghost, which is kind of the key unit right here. And the Ghost is going to go forward. Money EMP is going to go down there and hit a lot of the units. Most importantly, the Immortals and the Sentries. And now he's going to be able to push forward. We can see that there are no more force fields for Sase to work with, and he's going to be forced to warp in. More Zealous just to try and deal enough damage, as well as tank here. There's just too much bio coming out of NaDa. He's going to continue pushing forward. Dark Templar is trying to warp in desperately to save the day. But the scan goes down. Sase is forced to throw up the GG, and a very nice job there by NaDa, getting wind of those Dark Templar very early on, and they just really did not do anything for Sase that game the entire time.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I'd be careful about stopping the recording. I'm watching the stream right now on my right screen, and it's like at least 5 minutes behind, if not more. So I don't know. It's probably just the lag issues that are happening again. But yeah, in that game, Sase really got himself into that position where he was right out in the open. He didn't abuse that cliff. He just walked right out in the open with his army. And then didn't drop any force fields before the EMP got off. That EMP just decimated his army, hit the Immortal, hit tons of the units, hit the Sentries. Sase wasn't spread out at all, and fighting in that bad positioning right there with just gateway units versus infantry, never a good idea. Fighting gateway units versus infantry is extremely painful without force fields. So unless you drop down a bunch of those force fields, you're going to be in a really bad position. That's basically just what happened to him there.
Yeah, so with that, we're going to go into Game 3 with the series tied up 1-1. Game 3, I believe, was on Tal'Darim Altar. So that's going to be a pretty interesting series. Of course, Tal'Darim Altar, one of the biggest maps in the map pool by far. Very macro-oriented map. So stay tuned for that, and we'll be right back. And I'm just going to look into the delay. As far as the broadcaster is concerned, it's